Blackie Lawless from W.A.S.P. is still with me on Headbangers Ball, and we're talking about his plans to disband W.A.S.P., no longer to use the name. And I must say, for me as an interviewer, it's just impossible to try and condense this down into just two short segments, and I feel sad for you that we've only got a few minutes to talk, because I know how passionate you feel about W.A.S.P. and what you're doing. But difficult question, I think, for you, but can you sum up in a few sentences what's the best thing for you about having been in W.A.S.P. and having done and achieved all those great things? Can you pinpoint one thing? Was it just having, lived that life and being able to see all those places and do all those things?
Well, it certainly gives you an insight to what you think this business is about, which is, had it not been for this band, I could have never written the Crimson Idol or anything like that, or even to go into the depth of what the Crimson Idol was, because W.A.S.P. made me famous, and I don't mean just in a rock and roll sense. I mean, that band became a household word for whatever reason, God knows there was enough controversy, or controversy as you guys say, that surrounded the band. So, in that sense, I've learned what fame means, and I'm here to tell you that depending who you are, that may or may not be a good thing. It's made me more of a recluse. I live now about 25 miles north of LA in a canyon up on top of a hill where my back is to everything, where I can see everybody coming up the hill or whatever. Nobody sneaks up on me now. But then again, W.A.S.P. went through a lot of things, especially with the PMRC in America, because America is the type of place that when you get people who, start to champion a cause and think they're going to rid the world of a menace like me, they go to extreme measures. I got shot at a couple of times. There was one point where we were having bomb scares at shows every night. So, I mean, we ran the gambit, so it took me to a whole different place. Man, I done lived 4 or 5 of somebody else's lifetimes, so, and I don't mean to sit here and say, like, I'm going to run away and I'm never going to do anything again, because, well, we'll get into that in a second, but it's been real rewarding.
No, absolutely. I can imagine. Fantastic experience. So, plans for the future then, Blackie? You're going to stay in writing and recording music?
Well, the next record, which is supposed to be out sometime April, May, is already, most of it is written, and I commence recording about 4 or 5 weeks from now on it.
Wow. And is it very different to what you've been doing
I
before?
think if you go back and you look at where I've been in the last 5 years, if the Crimson Idol was a natural evolutionary step from the Headless Children, this next record will be the next step from the Crimson Idol. Because one of the things, one of the questions that I get asked a lot, people say, well, how come you've lasted as long as you have when maybe a lot of your peers that came out of the 80s didn't? The only conclusion that I can come to is that any artist must endear themselves to the people that listen to them. In other words, you got to be willing to let people go ride on your emotional coattails. You got to crack your skull open and let them come inside and get to know you intimately. And unless you're willing to do that, they will never know you intimately. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I know where I'm going with the next record, and it'll be more of an introspective look at what's really going on inside this madman.
So, are you going to be doing that under your own name, or are you going to
Yes.
get a band together?
As far as I know right now, it'll just be me.
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much for coming into
Thanks for having
MTV and telling us all about the latest news with you. And I know on behalf of many fans out there in Europe, to say thank you for 10 years of brilliant music and live shows.
Well, I appreciate that, but like I said, it ain't over yet. We're just putting a punctuation mark at the end of a chapter.
Exactly. So we'll be hearing from Blackie, of course, next year, and we'll keep you updated on all his news. So very best of luck to you, Blackie, and thanks for coming in. Well, we're going to finish with a classic video from W.A.S.P., and then after that, I will be back talking to Ben from Thunder to find out the latest news surrounding that band. So stay tuned, but we're just going to finish now with Blackie with a classic video from W.A.S.P., I Don't Need No Doctor.